I called out to him, and I told him to come back and give me another kiss before he left. Little did I know that that would be the last time we would be together as a family.
Ladies and gentlemen, indeed my honor, Lisa Tuozzolo.
Good morning, everybody. Parade rest for everybody, because I don't need anyone passing out right now, please. So I want you to relax. And it's something I say when I go into all of the commands and I do roll call. I just want everyone to take a deep breath, because believe it or not, I am more nervous than all of you. And I just want everyone to relax and take a moment. Okay. Truth. It was a tragedy, a gut-wrenching, life-altering, unexpected, and unwanted tragedy. On the afternoon of Friday, November 4th, 2016, I arrived at my home with my 3- and 4-year-old boys, sleeping in their car seats after a long day at school and work, for myself, to 3 police officers and police cars in my driveway. While the officers couldn't tell me with any specificity what had happened, they were able to deliver the news that my husband, a police officer in the New York City Police Department, was hurt, and I needed to be immediately transported to the hospital where he was taken. What do you mean he's hurt? I just can't leave my kids sleeping in a car. That's what I said to her. She said, "You need to go. Please trust me. The children will be safe with us until you can get a family member to be with them. Please, you have to go now." I ran in my home, frantically grabbing a coat and thinking, what else could I possibly need? As I was quickly escorted into one of the police cars in my driveway, I realized that it was going to be a brief drive only to a small field where I would then be flown by a helicopter to the hospital where my husband was being treated. A flight that lasted only 15 minutes seemed like an eternity. The bright hues of the treetops in my neighboring communities on this sunny fall day seemed absolutely meaningless. The colors were blurred into fuzz from the tears that filled my eyes and streamed down my face. What was wrong with Paul? Why couldn't I just be driven to the hospital? What had happened that all of these people from neighboring police departments were all involved? As we approached the hospital, the sight of tiny police cars, both marked and unmarked, that lined every inch of the tiny streets had become clear to me. As we landed, I realized that there were officers standing around everywhere you turned. As I approached the doors of the building, I frantically asked which way to go. Immediately, an officer placed his hand on my back and guided me inside the building. Tears began to stream more consistently down my face as I walked through the officer-lined hallways. While all of those moments seemed like a blur, it was not without noticing their saddened faces, some with tears looking back at me helpless and silent. There are too many people in here. No, this can't be. Too many. Tell them all to go away. I recall yelling. The walk seemed an eternity getting into a room on an upper floor of the hospital. People ducking into the room, some scattering out. And within moments, I was asked to sit down. And 2 strangers sat before me. One of them I recognized as the mayor of the city of New York, Bill de Blasio. The other, as I would soon learn, was Commissioner Jim O'Neill. With 33 years in the department and 2 months in a new position, was now sitting face to face with me, reliving and explaining for the first time in his career his new position, the death of a husband, father, and officer to a now widowed spouse. At the time, it was these two strangers who changed my life and broke it like a vase into a million pieces. They told me the truth. The truth was Paul was gone. That morning of November 4th was a normal day for Paul, the boys, and I. The boys came into our bedroom at the usual ungodly hour of the morning and woke us both up wanting to watch cartoons and eat breakfast in our bed. Paul and I rolled out of bed to care for our children and prepare for the day of work and school that lay ahead. We got the kids dressed and ready for preschool that day. He helped me load the boys into the car, and he got into his car and got ready to head off to work. As he headed to his car to leave for the day, after saying goodbye and I love you to the boys and I called out to him and I told him to come back and give me another kiss before he left. Little did I know that that would be the last time we would be together as a family. Over the course of that day, we texted back and forth about plans for an upcoming weekend and trying to convince him to spend it in the city. I remember spending a few hours trying to convince him to spend the whole weekend in the city, and in very true Paul fashion, he was less than excited about the proposal of even spending one night in the city. Sorry, Mayor. The rest of my workday was like any other. Little did I know how my world was set to implode. My school day ended, and since I still hadn't gotten him to commit, I called Paul to get him to say yes, at least to one night. The time was 2:45 p.m. Paul didn't answer the call. I called him again at 2:47, and again at 2:57, and still he didn't answer. How could I have known that less than 45 miles away, at those very moments that I was calling him, my husband, my best friend, and the father of my children, was fighting for his life on a dead-end block in the Bronx? The truth was my life as I knew it was forever changed in those 15 frantic minutes in the 43rd Precinct. Every day since November 4th, I continue to learn how to be both a mom and a dad to two young boys. Every day I continue to navigate an unwanted reality where I'm responsible for ensuring my boys have everything they need and to ensure that they grow up to be kind, caring, loving, and respectful human beings. Some days are better than others. 365 days have gone by since the boys have had their dad to play tag with. 365 days since they played zombies in the backyard, pillow fights in the living room, and to help Daddy fix things around the house. 365 days I had my partner by my side to watch planes taking off from a little airfield on Long Island during Memorial Day weekends, as we had done all the years that we had spent together. Super Bowl Sunday was a tradition in our household when family and friends would gather together for the big game at our house, and Paul would make the absolute best wings and buffalo chicken dip for the kids and I and all of our guests, even though his favorite Jets were never, well, ever in the big game. That was our life. That was the truth. And we loved that. In the past 365 days since November 4th, I had to stand in a cold cemetery with Chiefy Burns and my rocks from Employee Relations on my birthday to pick a final resting place for my Paul. As I stood there that dreary day, pondering how this was now my life, unable to think, unable to make that dreadful burial decision, Lieutenant Pizzo from Employee Relations called out to me, "Lisa, look down." And in front of my feet stood the base of a burial plot with the number 43 etched into it. It seemed fitting that this would be where I was meant to be and where Paul was meant to rest, overlooking again the very same airport we had watched planes take off from on Memorial Day. The truth? A year ago today, my world was shattered. Like a vase shattered on the floor, no matter how much you try to put it back together, it's never quite the same again. In the last year, those two men who sat in front of me in the hospital as strangers are now part of my family, who have embraced me, my boys, my parents, sister, and extended family, and for that, I'm forever grateful. Family was always Paul's focus. It was the boys and I who came. It was the boys and I who were the family he cared and loved so very much about. Coming home to the boys was the best part of his day, and the boys were his greatest pride and joy, especially as they tried to guess how many bad guys Daddy caught that day. Of course, his answers always ranged from 1 to 100. As I forge ahead with my boys at my side, every day remains a challenge. All I want to do is be able to do it on my own, but I've come to the realization that I can't do it. And I have to be so extremely blessed for all of the support we continue to receive from Ed Mullins and the entire SBA, Chiefy Burns and my rocks from Employee Relations, the mayor, Commissioner O'Neill, my entire NYPD family, especially my brothers and sisters here in the 43rd Precinct. I would be remiss if I didn't specifically thank the members of Paul's extended family who choose to support us, as well as Phil Scandali and Rich Wacera, who my children affectionately call Uncle Phil and Uncle Richie, as well as Emmanuel Quo, yes, entrepreneur for Patches for Paul, for all being by my side, as well as my sister Stacy, brother-in-law Jason, and most especially my parents, April and Sergio. Words fail me when describing what you all have meant to my family and I, and for you, and for all you do and continue to do for us. And I love each and every one of you. There's more. I'm sorry. There have been moments in the last year that have brought a smile to my face through these difficult times, especially when I make corny jokes. Having the boys drop the puck at the Islanders' seasoner opener, to Austin throwing the first pitch at a Mets game. Moments like these have managed to fill my spirits for the time being. But as I smile through these fleeting moments, watching my sons happy, my heart remains heavy, and I have to fight back the tears on a daily basis as I realize that these experiences are only occurring because my husband left for work one day and never came home, and I have to deal with that truth. Even with the smiles, the pain I continue is profound. The challenge of raising two boys on my own is nothing I ever thought I would have to undertake, trying to manage their development, care for a house, and for myself. The days have been long and full of activities that help keep the boys and I going. But at night, when I put the boys to bed and I'm left all alone without my husband by my side or my best friend to go over my day with, that's when it's the hardest. Bedtime is when I'm left pondering the events of November 4th and the utter disbelief surrounding the events of that day and how my life was so irrevocably shattered and the life Paul and I built together was so brutally cut short. All the well-laid plans for our future, our hopes, our retirement, all now dashed as a result of that awful day. Sometimes I feel that my life is going on through a looking glass and I'm on the outside looking in. As I lay in bed every night when the boys are asleep and stare at Paul's NYPD Sergeant uniform hat on our dresser, I realize that sometimes life can be so very cruel. All I want to do is bury my head in my pillow and scream. But I also know that Austin and Joseph will wake up and it will take another 3.5 hours to put them back to sleep. As I stare at his hat, I realize I must continue to push forward, to care for myself and the boys, because I am sure that is what Paul would want me to do, and it is through the strength that every one of you give me that I continue to ensure that Paul's legacy and service is not forgotten. I've learned in the last year that I'm stronger than I believe, more resilient than I thought, and capable, with the assistance of my family, fellow line of duty survivors, and brothers and sisters in blue, that I will get through. Not only just get through, but I will thrive, and my boys will survive and be contributing members of society, and always know that their father was a hero that exemplified the truest ideals of the men and women of the New York City Police Department. It truly takes a village to raise a child. I will continue to build my village for my boys. Each one of you sitting here today are part of that village. And I will call upon one day for your help. Some of my relations with you are blood, while others are newly formed through tragedy. Whatever the way, I love and care about each and every one of you. It is that unconditional love that will help make the days a little bit more bearable, and it is the strength that I find in those that support us continue to my path that I have reluctantly been put on. As I move forward, I will continue to speak out at every opportunity I get, whether it be at a command rollout, fraternal or sports group, or a borough rookie orientation, about the great works our men and women do. These are my brothers and sisters in the NYPD, and I expect them to continue to do it each and every day. I know, some people agree with you, honey. Some of these works get noticed, and more often than not, their services and sacrifices never ever make the news. I want all members of service gathered here today know that you are appreciated, and the work you do is without parallel. Each of you run towards the danger when the rest of the society runs away. And unfortunately, every so often, you are called upon to make the supreme sacrifice like Paul had to, and he made it. This love for his fellow officers and the public could not have been any more apparent on that day 1 year ago. As you men and women sitting here today go back into the streets of New York to serve your communities. Well, I know you're falling. Oh, thank you. Never forget that I appreciate your hard work, and the sacrifices that you make don't go unnoticed. But also take the time to appreciate life through the chaos. Live your lives. Appreciate life. Love a little harder. Care a little harder. And never stop telling those that are most important to you that they matter. I will tell you from firsthand experience that life doesn't give you a warning when it's about to change. All you have is the present to let those in your life know that you love them. Tragedy allows you to put life into perspective. It allows you to prioritize what is most important in life. It gives you that eye-opening opportunity to see people for who they really are. Thank you to the City of New York and beyond for accepting Austin, Joseph, and myself, as well as my parents, sister, and extended family into your lives and wrapping us up this past year with so much love. This is a debt I truly can never repay. The truth? Paul's unexpected death has given me purpose. This purpose continues to evolve as time goes by, but the overriding theme is ensuring that Paul's sacrifice, thank you, and for his friends and for the city are never, ever forgotten. As Commissioner O'Neill pledged to me in the early weeks after Paul's death, can't cover it up. He has kept and continues to keep Paul's memory in the hearts of everyone that he speaks to. In the last year, I have traveled to many memorials, including the Police Memorial in downtown Manhattan, one on Long Island, the State House in Albany, and the National Law Enforcement Memorial in Washington, D.C., where Paul's name has been etched for eternity for his sacrifice. And it humbles me to know that so many people around this country want to give memorials, want to remember Paul. Through the sadness and the tears this last year, these men and women in blue have been making sacrifices for this great country. As I spent time at these varying memorials, I was brought face to face with so many families who are in shoes that are similar to mine. And as I spent these days meeting and speaking to these other families, some of whom are here in the audience today, we can all agree it's a fraternity that no one wants to be a part of. As I chart a new path in life with the boys at my side, my purpose is to ensure that the memory of their father's sacrifice lasts forever. I want to ensure his story is always told to everybody. To police officers starting their careers, to seasoned vets, to the community he served, and to the entire city of New York. It takes a special individual to choose to put on a vest and shield every day. And it is important we tell them we appreciate them, and this is my purpose. Each and every one of you seated here today gives me the strength to continue to navigate our new lives and to be the best parent I can be to the boys. I thank you for all you do, and I love each and every one of you. Thank you.